The 606th edition of the MMA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. You can win up to 325 times your entry with their brand new Pick 8. Sign up today with promo code MMA SGPN to claim your special pick and first time deposit offer of up to $250 in bonus cash. That's UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code MMA SGPN. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm. Get the best data-driven props and picks with Rhythm. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM.
Heidi ho, degenerinos. Welcome to episode 606 of the MMA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. This one's dedicated to Mr. Sando, one of our friends on YouTube. If you're not one of our friends on YouTube yet, make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you're watching this on YouTube, even if you're not, just go to YouTube and hit subscribe and help your friends out here. The MMA Gambling Podcast. I'm one of your friends, the almighty Supreme Leader Jeff Fox, and this is part 2 of our LFA 188 preview. It's going down this coming Friday night. Yesterday was the prelims. We did 5 prelim fights. Today we're going to jump into the main card fights and then see if Gumby, my smart co-host, smart's the best word I could come up with, my co-host with all the insights on LFA, see if he has any extra bonus picks. But only fights we're not covering are basically 0-0 fighters fighting, but you never know with this Gumby guy. Let's bring him in now. It's Daniel Gumby Vreeland. Hello.
You know, I got a couple of lightning round picks. I always do. And I will just say this. This is the only place in the whole world where over a 9-day span, you are going to get 24 LFA fights broken down. LFA's website doesn't do that. We are the only people breaking down that much LFA. And then we did PFL Mine in between and Aries and Fury FC. So if you like getting these, smaller promotion MMA breakdowns that you could usually bet on and offshore books, make sure to click the subscribe button because that tells our boss that we are liked in the general sense. And even if you want to turn off notifications, our life will be better for it. So thank you for that. And I'm excited for this main card. As we talked about on last show, I really like this fight card. We talked about a couple of fighters I was pretty high on the prelims. You can go back and you can watch that fight or that breakdown. And then there are quite a few I like here, including one returning from a failed bout on Contender Series. So pumped about that.
Do you see some future UFC fighters?
The one who failed on Contender Series, not to spoil it, but then also, like 2 or 3 more too. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Before we dive into it, just a reminder, the latest episode of SGP Stories is out on our Patreon, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon. And the guys do a forensic files style deep dive on the Bobby Petrino motorcycle accident that cost him his job. And of course, make sure you check out the WNBA Gambling Podcast. As Charles and Scott have started out the season red hot with their locks. So check them out on your podcaster of catcher of choice and on YouTube, of course, as well. All right, let's dive into this card. First, I'll give you a little background if you didn't watch yesterday's episode or listen to it. It's LFA 188, Sweeney versus Nascimento. It is going down on this Friday, the 12th of July in Chandler, Arizona at the Gila Rivers Resorts and Casinos Wild Horse Pass. 10 p.m. Eastern time would be the start time, I guess, for the fights we're covering here on the main card, and that's on UFC Fight Pass. All right. Let's start things off with the main card fight at lightweight. Cedric Katambwa. He's from the Democratic Republic of Congo. He is fighting an American, I believe. I lost my screen. Here we are. Stanley Dorsainvil from the United States of America. Lightweight fight. Dorsainvil is the drill. Dorsainvil. 2-0 with 2 submissions. This is his LFA debut. He's not fought since June 2023. 10 years younger than Katambwa. Katambwa is 4-0 with 1 no contest. 2 knockouts. All those fights have taken place in LFA. And he won his last fight via TKO. And that's all I got. Short resumes for these gentlemen.
Yeah, so Dorsainvil definitely going to be the dog here. Katambwa, a little bit of hype behind him, although the time off, I think, probably will limit that hype. So I'll say like -175 for Katambwa. And I have been real big on him from the first time that I saw him. I want to say that I saw him at like 1-0 or 2-0 way back early, and immediately was impressed by him. He has a really good low leg kick and a really good style of like attacking the body of his opponents. It's clear he comes from a kickboxing background. In Dorsainvil, he stands with a really wide stance, which is pretty much just inviting Katambwa to eat up that front leg. I think he's going to do it until Dorsainvil has to stand outside of his standard stance, and that's really going to limit his striking. So I like Katambwa for that reason. I will also just say in general, Dorsainvil is really only one fight one way, and it's by jumping guillotine.
We love that.
Yeah, he's a guy who's jumped guillotine. Now, it's worked for him a couple of times, which is worth noting. And Katambwa, I will say, I want to say the guy's last name was Garcia. I don't know if he fought a guy named Garcia or not, but that's what my mind wants to tell me. When he fought a guy who I think was named Garcia, he gets stuck in a guillotine one time and sort of had to work his way out. But Katambwa, despite being a kickboxing guy, does have pretty good submission defense. He does have some pretty good wrestling. I don't think he'll have to go to it, but even if he does, I like his chances to stay away from that guillotine. I will say, like, if books offer props and you wanted to get weird and go with the Dorsainvil submission prop, I think that's probably his only avenue to win. But I do think Katambwa pieces him up on the feet, rips the legs, stays out of submissions if it has to get to it. I like Katambwa here, especially if he stays under -200.
The guy you think was named Garcia is, in fact, named Adam Garcia. So
hell yeah. Yeah. I thought
there
so.
You go. There you go. Gummy.
I could see like the little corner images, like the little footer images when you're watching the video. I could see that it said Garcia, but I couldn't remember if that was actually his name or not.
Your memory is that good, is it?
That must be.
Wow. All right. What number do you say for Katambwa?
I was hoping -175. Right, I think
fantastic.
The good record in the finishes of Dorsainvil should keep it low.
All right, let's move on to a female fight. We didn't cover any yesterday's episode. We got one here. Women's strawweight Leslie Hernandez versus Jade Jorand. Jorand is from France. All right, let's break her down. Jorand is the princess. She's 4-2. Has not finished anyone. She herself has been submitted twice, so both her losses have come via finish. This is her LFA debut. She's won 4 straight fights. He's not fought since July of 2023. Has not lost since September 2021. Used to fight at atomweight. 0-1 in Bellator, 1-0 as a pro kickboxer. Hernandez, Dora the Destroyer. What a great nickname. She's 3-1 with 2 knockouts. Never been finished in a fight. 3-1 in LFA. She's won 3 straight fights, including her last one via TKO. Has not lost since April 2022. Dora the Explorer is a horrible show, by the way. I don't know if your kids ever watched it, but it's pretty bad.
They have it.
Dora yells at you the whole time and tells you to do things and help her. It's really annoying.
I feel like it was on one time when we were in like a pediatrics office or something like that. In like in a waiting room.
Yep.
And it was on, and I was like, "The hell is this?"
Yeah.
Also, I've been told the reason she has that nickname is because people think she looks like Dora the Explorer.
Oh, really?
Do you have the Tapology open? I don't know if I see it,
sure.
but like, maybe. It's a weird nickname. Hernandez, the Explorer here, is gonna be a favorite. I'm gonna guess -200 plus 175 on Jorand. I'm gonna take a swing on an underdog here on Jorand for a couple of reasons. Number one, she's really turned things around as of late. Like you mentioned, she's 4-2, but those 2 losses came in her first 2 fights. I really think she's like the best way to describe her is she's a grinder. She'll get up against the cage, she'll mix it up there. And then when she's worn you out, she'll sort of like pour it on. And when she lets go with her hands, even late in the fight, they look kind of crisp. And with Hernandez, man, I first of all, you said she's won 3 straight technically.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say technically here because her fight with Christina Broder, I believe it was. See, you thanked your dog last episode, and you didn't thank him in this one, and like what's happening now. But she fought Christina Brader like 2 fights ago. Because she fought that other woman who I'm sometimes high on. Whose husband and brother-in-law were in the UFC. Brittany Camosi.
Yes.
She fought. Yeah. She fought Brittany Camosi in the last one. That was a legitimate win. The win before that against Christina Brader, she 100% got out-controlled in that fight. Cub Swanson on the mic after the fight was like, I don't know how they gave that to Leslie Hernandez. That decision shocks me. It was a weird split decision. And the thing is in that fight, Brader just held her against the cage, took her down, worked her that way. And I think with Jorand being a grinder, I think she just uses that blueprint. I think she uses that method to sort of take Hernandez into her avenue and beat the heck out of her. So yeah, give me Jade Jorand here. I think we see maybe a slow paced fight, at least until she gets Hernandez tired. And then I think she opens up.
Hernandez probably can't bring her talking backpack in the cage either, right? So that probably
no. Or what's the? Isn't there a
backpack?
There's a talking backpack, and is there a freaking fox or something?
Yes, swiper no swiping.
Yeah,
he steals things. They make us foxes look bad.
I was just gonna say maybe that's your nickname.
Bad representation.
Jeff the Swiper Fox.
No. I don't steal. I don't steal at all. I just steal our audience's hearts is what I steal. All right. So Jade Jorand, you said about plus 125, right?
I think I said plus 175.
Oh, even better.
Yeah, I think Hernandez being her wins, being over recognizable names, she fought Kamosi in LFA, right?
Yeah.
And actually she fought Brader in LFA too. I think having a couple of wins in LFA probably buoys her up into the 200s.
Cool. Jorand, maybe from France, but she trains at the Goat Shed, it says. So she
that's why she's a grinder then. It's
go,
like Goat Shed gals and guys are all absolute grinders.
Yep. All right. Before we move on, let me tell you about another underdog. Underdog at Fantasy. They have something called Pick 8 and is now live on Underdog Fantasy. You create entries with up to 8 picks, and Underdog will automatically double flex entries, so you can miss up to 2 picks and still win your entry. With more picks to make and extra ways to win, the excitement is higher than ever. The best part, you can win up to 325 times your original amount. You can now use specials and boosts on all flex entries. Do you have another Atlanta Braves hitter for us to fade, Gumby?
Not to fade. I'd say take the higher than on Tuesdays, right? We're Tuesday at the time of releasing this. The higher than on Jared Kelnick's total bases. He's been ripping a couple extra base hits here and there. So let's mix him in. All
right. Don't miss your chance to try out Pick 8 before it's gone, and to try out Jared Kelnick before he starts reverts back to his normal play. So sign up with our code MMASGPN to claim your special pick and first time deposit. Offer up to $250 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code MMASGPN. And of course, Circa Sports is back with Circa Survivor and Circa Millions, giving away $16 million in guaranteed prizes. Of course, Circa contests have no rake. Circa Millions, you pick 5 NFL teams against the spread each week and compete for $6 million, or survive the NFL gauntlet to claim the $10 million prize. I say you win both. Sign up in person at Circa Sports between now and September 7th and use a proxy to play from anywhere. We even have a deal with football contest proxy.com to save you $50 with promo code SGP. Don't have a trip booked for Las Vegas yet before football? Ultimate Contest Weekend is a great time to go hang out. Hang out with our buddies, Ryan and Sean, the bosses. Tell them how great Gumby and the almighty supreme leader, Jeff Chalks Fox is, and enjoy some of the open bar events at the greatest sports book in the world, August 22nd through the 24th. All righty, ladies and gentlemen, we're going back to a men's fight, and it is at featherweight. Jose Delgado versus Lucas Faria. Faria from Brazil, Delgado from the United States. Faria, Dog Race is a nickname. Now that is a nickname, Gumby. Dog Race.
You can't be upset and say that that's one that's overused.
No.
When it's Dog Race.
You better have him on the top turtle and find out why.
All right.
He better keep winning fights then. He's 7-2 with 7 knockouts. He's been knocked out twice. So live by the sword, die by the sword. And he owes his rounds as well. This is his LFA debut. He's won 4 straight fights. He's not fought since October 2019. I assume he was doing the Iditarod in the meantime, right?
That is a dog race.
That is dog race. He's not lost since September 2017. Delgado, not Carlos Delgado. He's 6-1, 2 knockouts, 4 submissions. Never been finished in a fight. He owes his rounds as well. This is his debut in LFA. He's won 3 straight and used to fight down at lightweight. This fight is at featherweight now, or up at lightweight. Excuse me. Go ahead.
So I think slight favorite for Delgado here. Let's say negative 135, like plus 115 on Faria. They seem, at least resume wise, pretty equal. I'm gonna go with Delgado. Like I said, slight favorite probably. He got popped really hard about 6 seconds into his last fight, to the point where when I was watching it, I was like, do I need to even watch more of this to get a good sense of him? He just got smoked 6 seconds in. But I kept watching anyway, and I'm really glad I did, because it showed me just how much of a dog he is. Because, like, despite having his, bell rung to the point where it looked like his eyes might have even been rolling back in his head, He then immediately counter wrestled and grinded out the first round to the point where I don't know that he lost that first round. Like, there's a good chance that he still won the first round, given that, like he got knocked down early. Now, of course, depending on how judges look and the fact that we never saw the judges' scorecards, like, we don't know that he won that round. But the fact of the matter is like, he got knocked down and possibly still won that round. And that is just like such an indicative fact about the way that he fights, is he's a grinder. He's a guy who you can never count out. And when he's in top control, he's got really crafty transitions. Like, I really like the way he gets out of half guard. I really like the way he moves to side control. I really like, his moves to the back and all that kind of stuff. So I like a lot of things about him. For Faria, for me, like, he's got power, but I think ultimately just not enough defense here. And yeah, like, obviously the power thing could be an alarm, being that Delgado got popped 6 seconds into his last fight. But like, ultimately, I just don't think he has the defense either in the wrestling or in the striking. I think he's kind of too hittable. So I'm going to take Delgado in his like grinder, smart wrestling style. Like I said at the top, probably like -135. This should be a close line. If it gets out of hand either way, I would probably, or at least if it gets out of hand for Delgado here, I would probably stay away from it.
All right, fantastic. Let's go to our co-main event. Kasey Tanner versus Thiago Belo, U.S. versus Brazil. Belo is from Brazil. We will tell you about him first. Bananina. Another Ina this episode, Gumby. It's an easy one.
That tiny banana?
Yes, exactly.
Does anybody want their nickname to be Tiny Banana?
I don't. Hopefully, he didn't give himself that nickname.
Yeah, because there's an instructor who used to train people out on Cape Cod in Massachusetts, whose nickname was Banana, Juliana Banana Coutinho. Yeah. But he wasn't a tiny banana. He was a big guy, and also, I don't know that anybody wants to be the tiny banana.
No, hopefully a partner of his didn't give him that nickname, is all I have to say. But anyhow, you get some cool nicknames in this here sport. Tiny Banana is 9-7-1 with 1-0 contest. He's been knocked out twice, he's knocked out 2 people, submitted 4 people. People that make fun of his nickname, he finished apparently. He's been knocked out once, submitted twice. This is his debut. He's lost 3 straight fights. Before that, he won 4 straight. He's not won since February 2020. Used to fight at featherweight, 2006 pro MMA debut, and an inch taller than Tanner. Tanner is 6-1, 2 knockouts, 2 submissions, never been finished in a fight. 1-0 in LFA. He did lose his last fight, his first career loss professionally. That was on a Contender Series. Oh, we heard about this guy earlier from the Gumby. So he's 0-1 Contender Series, 0-1 as a pro grappler, 4 years younger than the Tiny Banana.
Yeah, when I heard Kasey Tanner got signed to Contender Series last year, I was like sick. And as a matter of fact, I even think I messaged Jong immediately in the Discord and was like, hey, Jong, our guy Kasey Tanner is on Contender Series. Isn't that awesome? And then, the matchup started coming out, and we got to where the fight was about to happen, and we did our breakdown of it, and I couldn't pick him. He was a guy I liked so much that I sent a message about how excited I was about him. And then he drew Yan Matsumoto. And like, apart from the jokes that we make about Michael Bisping calling Yan Matsumoto the triple division gold super whale ultra lock champion or whatever the Discord says about him, like, he's good, right? And he's also good in all of the same ways as Kasey Tanner is, which was kind of a bummer to Kasey Tanner, because the thing about Kasey Tanner, he's a fight ready guy, great takedowns. I love his ground and pound, like, sort of one of those guys who transitioned from being a wrestler to having very good jiu-jitsu to go along with it. Like, he's not just like a wrestler ground and pound guy, like really good arm triangles, like surprisingly good rear naked chokes. Like, he's got a really good, well-rounded ground game to go along with it. And he's not bad on the feet either. And then he just happened to run into a guy who's a better wrestler than him, who's faster than him, who happened to be a touch better of a striker than him. And I think LFA is really giving him a chance to rebound here. Belo's got a terrible record and a tiny banana, and given all of that I think I'm gonna I think Tanner's probably gonna be -750, -800 here. There's no reason not to pick him. He's just gonna ground him out and finish him any way he wants to. So give me Kasey Tanner.
All right. Kasey Tanner is the pick. What was the number again? I don't.
I think I said negative 750. Negative.
You don't
8.
even pay attention.
I know you weren't paying attention because I said he's got a tiny banana, and you.
Yeah, I heard you.
You didn't even flinch.
I ignore your jokes sometimes, like you ignore my jokes. That's just the way it goes. All right. Before we ignore we've been together far too long. It's like a marriage at this point. All right. Before we move on, we're going to keep moving on. Actually, we're going to tell you about Rhythm though. Before we move on with more picks, if you're betting on player props, then you need to download Rhythm. Rhythm is a go-to sports betting tool that transforms complex data into actionable insights, empowering bettors with smarter, data-driven decisions. Unlike other platforms, Rhythm combines advanced predictive analytics with an intuitive user experience, making betting both easy and enjoyable. Rhythm's predictive models were born from the brains of MIT data scientists and quants with over 3 years of data to help drive you to better AI-backed betting decisions. Rhythm projections have been red hot for WNBA and golf. Check it out. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. All right, main event time, and it's for the gold. LFA Bantamweight Championship. John Sweeney, the champion, versus Rafael do Nascimento. So we got U.S. versus Brazil. 5 5-minute rounds at Bantamweight. We'll tell you about the challenger first. Do Nascimento. Mulisha is the nickname. He's 9-2, 1 knockout, 6 submissions, never been finished in a fight. 3-1 in LFA, 5-1 over his last 6, including winning his last fight. That was back in June of 2023, so he's been on the shelf for about a year. 2013 pro MMA debut, 2 inches of reach over Sweeney. Hollywood Sweeney is the champ, 13-3, 4 knockouts, 3 submissions. He's been knocked out twice, 5-0 in LFA, and the current Bantamweight champion. He won his last fight. He's won 7 straight fights. He's not fought since June of 2023 as well. It's not lost since July of 2020, and he used to fight up at featherweight.
Do you remember the clothing company from like the early days of MMA, Metal Militia?
Yep.
So he has a giant back tattoo of the Metal Militia.
No
logo.
way.
Yeah. Like
Crazy.
Across the top of his shoulders. Like, you know, some people have their last name sometimes across their shoulders.
Yep.
He's got the Metal Militia logo. And it's just fantastic. And it harkens back to a time that I think a lot of our listeners probably don't even remember. So shout out to all you old heads who do. Sweeney being the favorite or being the champion here, I think is going to be a big favorite. Let's say negative 300. You're going to get like plus 250 on the return for Dona Nascimento, especially because Nascimento's only 1-1 in his last 2. I'm still taking Dona Nascimento. I think his style right here is a nightmare for John Sweeney. If you look at some of his past fights, this guy takes the back in all clinch positions exceptionally well, to the point where he finished Marcus McGee, who I think we're all very high on Marcus McGee since he's been in the UFC. Everybody's, touting that dude right now. Nascimento jumped on his back 3 minutes in and finished him. Did so without a problem. And then when you look at Sweeney, Sweeney went in there with Farias, who is a good grappler. But he had his same thing, back taken a couple of times in that fight, had to sort of ride out some bad jiu-jitsu positions, wound up taking over later in the fight. But I'm going to just say this here. I think Farias was riskier in the jiu-jitsu positions than Nascimento typically is. I think Farias usually gets a little high on the shoulders, tries to take the back too early, doesn't settle himself into those positions. And I think the thing about Don Nascimento is Don Nascimento, yes, he is quick to take the back, but I think he's way more smart about the way he does it, way more safe. He's way more position over submission. And I think that bodes really well to win rounds and to possibly get a submission here against Sweeney. So I think with those things sort of in there, and also just that I think he's got better cardio than Farias, I think he's going to be trouble for John Sweeney. So I think if you can get him, I think at dog money at all, he's going to be a value, but I do think he's going to be higher than plus 200, particularly at post. So if Don Nascimento comes in there, plus 225, 250, jump all over that. I don't know if that's a price that'll last.
Fantastic. Ending things with a dog. Actually, no, we're not done technically yet. Let's give you a recap of the picks for the main card. Dom Nascimento hopefully has a nice sized dog for us. Tanner, the opposite of a nice sized dog. Delgado, Jorand, and Katambwa. All right, lightning round, crash bang boom. Gumby.
So guys, Yeah, so a guy Jeff tried to talk about on last
Yes.
night's show, despite the fact that I told him that we were not breaking down that fight, was Johan Rodriguez. I really like how quick his hands are. I think maybe a pick'em style fight in the prelims. I don't know necessarily what those odds will come in at, especially because both guys are pretty inexperienced. But if you can get a reasonable line on him and his hands, I think he's a fun one to pick. And then one I think will come in as a dog is Quentin Williams. She's exceptionally good on the ground. I really like what I've seen from her in a couple of fights in terms of both her jiu-jitsu and her ability to get it there. I think she's kind of a sleeper play here, especially if she doesn't come in at dog value. So I like Johan Rodriguez and Quinn Williams.
All right. Come talk LFA with us in our Discord, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Discord. Twitter, SGPN MMA. He's at Gummy Vreeland. I'm at Jeff Fox Writer. Check out my Substack. Enter my free UFC Pick'em contest for this weekend at moneymma.substack.com. Listen to Gummy's Dana White Contender Series versions of the Top Turtle MMA podcast. Lots of Dana White Contender Series interviews on there. So check that out. Get that in your ears. And of course, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube and check us out at sportsgamblingpodcast.com, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/store, and sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon. We're back tomorrow. The UFC is back, and we'll be back covering it. It will be Bananina, Jeff Fox, and Gumby the Destroyer. And we'll talk to you then.